Hey, good morning. Today I am going to show you how to make your first $10,000 trading crypto. Hopefully I can break it down and put it into some very simple steps, ways to get started. I know that trading can be a daunting task, especially if you've never done it before. Whether you have just invested in crypto by just buying and holding, or maybe you haven't invested at all. There's a lot of you out there that would love to do some trading, but just don't know where to get started. And hopefully I'm going to be able to help you with that today. Folks, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Brad Varnell. This is the Infinite Crypto YouTube channel, and I am excited to be here with you on Tuesday, Tuesday, March 25th. Can you believe it, guys? We are almost through a whole fourth of the year, man. 25% of 2025 is already gone, and what a year it has been. Hey, what you doing, buddy? Excuse me for just 1 second. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Look at this little bundle of joy, huh? Yeah, he's a little scared. Come on, say hi to everybody. Yeah, this is Rambo. And so we got Rocky and Rambo. And anyways, Rambo is kind of hanging out here, checking the place out. We're watching him for our daughter, whose cat just had a litter of kittens. And so he is a handful. I'm going to try to keep him from distracting me too much, but it definitely is a little bit of a nuisance. I love you, but you are a nuisance. Yeah, go lay down there I got a nice little spot set up for him on my desk so that he can lay down and just fall asleep. But of course, like in the 15 minutes leading up to the live stream, he was laying there just, content to be asleep. And then all of a sudden, about 2 minutes before I went live, he decided that it was time to start moving around and messing with stuff. So with that, I hope everybody is having a fantastic day. I want to reach out and say hello to everybody. Good morning, Nayana, Dana. Hope you are doing great. John, Mag, Polly, thank you for being here. Good morning, Daniel. Good morning, Cian. Hope you are all having a fantastic day today. So let's just run right over here. Let me get my screen presented and pop over here to the cryptocurrency market. So for those of you that are watching this, that are taking some notes, step one in making money trading is really trying to, figure out a couple of things. One, with my trading system, it's really a matter of trying to figure out what token is, some of the better tokens to actually do some of this trading with. The other thing that's super important is to really kind of have a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? It's important to have an idea of whether or not you think the market is going up or going down. And so, if you don't know or have a idea of what you think is going to happen with the market, then a lot of times it's better to hold off. And although I want to show you how to make your first $10,000 trading, I also want you to understand that you don't necessarily have to make it right this second. You can take a little bit of time learning the ropes and putting some of these things into play on a smaller scale so that you can actually, are you kidding me, Kat? So that you can actually, do this with some confidence when you get ready to start playing around with some of the bigger money numbers that we are going to be talking about. Oh, I did not think this through. Seriously. Oh my goodness. So one of the tokens that I did a trade in on about 3 weeks ago now that I'm still in on this trade is Polygon. So I wanted to take a quick look at it. So this is not the one that I like to look at because it doesn't give the full chart. So let me run over here and do a little search for it and see what I can come up with. Yeah, so we just want the original one because it shows the whole chart. And I was showing you guys how over the last, several years, this thing has not really been lower than about 20 cents. So this doesn't pinpoint it here, but this token was around 20 cents not too long ago. So it's had a nice little, it's had about a 10% increase since we got started trading it. And it's doing pretty well in life. I got to get rid of my wedding ring because the cat is definitely loving the wedding ring. I also need to get rid of my reading glasses because the cat seems to think that those are cool to play with. And so good morning, Tim. Good morning, Eric. Hope you guys are doing great. I was just showing the gang a new kitten named Rambo that we are keeping an eye on for my daughter. And he's about 7 weeks old. And he was laying down being a perfect little gentleman. And then all of a sudden the stream started. And now he is going crazy. He's behind my computer and really messing things up. So, man, I'm trying. I want to get him. I wonder if I can tempt him to get out from underneath there. So I'm going to try to get him off of my desk. Oh man, this is crazy. I've been watching a lot of videos lately on how to create, higher quality content and higher, more productive content, the content that really is, that makes you guys want to stick around and watch these videos for 30, 40, 50 minutes, an hour. And, and having a cat on my desk distracting me from everything that I'm doing is not part of the plan. Say hi to everybody. Yeah. Say hi, Rambo. Yeah. Hey, buddy. Yeah, you are a beautiful little guy, but you can't be running all over my desk. Yeah, you can't be distracting everything off of my desk. I'm going to set you down on the ground, let you play with the other kitties and stuff, okay? Yeah, you go figure out some fun to have. All right. So, back to one of the most important things that you can do if you're looking to make your first $10,000 with the system that I'm going to share with you here over the next few minutes is really to try to figure out some tokens that that in your opinion have come close to bottoming out, or if you are, a big proponent of the market going to continue to have more pain, then you want to have tokens that you feel like still have a long ways to go down. So I'm of the opinion, sitting here with Bitcoin at 87,000, that we're pretty much, I think that we're about done with the pain. How do I know? I don't. But folks, there's just so many things that are lining up in crypto's favor, even though it might seem like the opposite is being talked about in the news and in the mainstream media. But there is a lot of massive good things that are happening for crypto right now. And it's also, I don't want to say, once again, like that the markets do the same thing over and over and over and over, but there is a lot of rhyming that happens with it. So we can all agree that this bull market, if you want to call it a bull market, has been totally different than the other previous bull markets. But at the same time, there's definitely some similarities. Bitcoin ran from 42,000 down to 27,000 in February of 2021, before it then ran all the way up to over 64,000, its next real big all-time high. Here we had, Bitcoin run all the way up to about 108,000 in, I believe it was the beginning of February. And then over the last 2 months, it's gotten slaughtered all the way down back into the 70s. I think it went down to 76 or 78. and now it's back up to, 87, 88. Is it going to go back down into the 70s, or is it going to go back up and plow into the hundreds? Nobody knows for sure, but I think we're getting pretty close to April, and I think we're getting back. I think we're going to have a nice April and May and take Bitcoin back up to new all-time highs. And then I think similar to 2021, the way that it ran from 42 down to 27 and then went all the way up to 63, 64, I think that this went from 108 back into the 70s. And I think it's going to probably run up to like 150, 175, 200. And I think that at that point in time, we're really going to start to see some really significant moves in the altcoin. So I do think that we could be in for some temporary pain. There's no guarantees that we're on our way up now, but I believe that the pain that we can have is much smaller than the massive gains that we can make if crypto decides to take off. So I'm kind of putting my bets, putting my bets on the longs, hedging my bets on the long term. So you guys can see this is the same trade that I put together. I started this trade 3 weeks ago with a $15 bill. And then I added about $50 to it a couple of weeks ago, and it never got anywhere near close to liquidating. You can see here my liquidation price is all the way down at 18.73 cents. My average buy price here is at 20.63 cents, and you can see that I'm up, 93%. I'm up almost 100% on this trade. So I've got $64 in it, and right now it is in the green by about $60, fluctuating around here, and $60, $59, $48, just kind of back and forth there, but right around $60 that I'm up in this trade over the last 3 weeks. And then we also talked about, you want to talk about, having the potential to make your first $10,000 in trading. Well, take a look at this, folks. I've got $65 tied up in this trade. If this thing just goes back up to $1, that's going to turn $65 into $2,478. If this goes back up to its previous all-time high of $3, this $165 trade is going to be worth $8,755. I don't know how well you can see this on your screen, but you can trust me here that this is worth, at $3, this is worth $8,755. And if we have an extremely bullish, $175, $200, $250,000 Bitcoin, I don't think it would be impossible for this to say become a $5 token. And so at $5, this is worth $15,000 on a $65 trade. So in my opinion, one of the best ways to make your first $10,000 in trading is to find 3 to 5 tokens. I think 5 is a pretty solid number. If you wanted to expand it out to 10, you can. But in my opinion, I would find 3 to 5 tokens that you really believe are going to perform well during this bull market and that have somewhat bottomed out, in your opinion. And then I would ride those tokens up and do it with my laddering system to where you give yourself, a little bit of breathing room. So I don't have the ladder in play here right this second, but what I would do in general, so with this, because it was so bottomed out and I just didn't have a ton of money in this account, I haven't put the ladders in. But to give you an idea of what a ladder would look like, is you can see here, once again, the liquidation price is 18.73 cents. So what I would do, and I've got $65 in the trade, so my next ladder would I'd want to probably put a minimum of 100, probably more like 130 to 150 in, and I would want to do that ladder down at 18.73 plus a little bit, so I'd probably do like 1885 just to make sure that if this thing, if Bitcoin did run down to 75,000 on me and this thing got slaughtered down a little bit, that I would be able to stay in this trade. So right now I've got a pretty nice little margin here. Figure what, 10% of 2250 is 2.5 cents. So that would take it down to about 20 cents if it dropped down 10% from where it's at. And then another 10% from 20 would take it down to 18. So it would have to drop down, 20+% to get down to under 18. And if I go put in a ladder, in other words, if I were to go over and go to the Polygon pair here, I would basically look at this 1873 stop price, and I would go down here and I would manually type in, say, 18, say it's at 73. I want to give it a little bit of room. So 18, I'd probably say 1890 just to be safe. And I don't think I've got much of anything in here, but I think I've got a little bit so that I can, I got like 15 lousy dollars, but that still works to show you guys what I'm talking about. So now that I've got some money available over here, all I would do is I would go in here, I would double check and make sure that this is isolated at 10x leverage. And so that, because you don't want to do something goofy, you're doing different leverage on different trades, and all of a sudden you put in a 50 or 100x leverage trade in. So I'd first off double check that I'm on isolated and that I'm at 10x leverage. And then I would just, like I said, I would come in here, type in 1890, and then I would place this trade. Now, like I said, in a perfect world, I'd be looking at placing a trade that was more like $130 to $150, but just to give you an idea here, by putting these numbers in, and now I hit the long button and I hit confirm. Oh, I didn't see what it said. What did it say there? Let me try that again. I didn't quite catch the message. See, what does it say? The risk limit of trading it pops up and down. I'm just going to do, so let's just do like 75%, see if we can get something to happen here. The risk of this trading pair, why? So I'm on isolated 10x. I'm on isolated 10x. I know there's a minimum, which I thought would have been around $10. So I thought 75%. Let's try 80% here and see. Oh my goodness. I keep this thing it clicks up so quickly. I can only read the first half of it. Interesting. So it's wanting me to close this position first, and I'm not quite sure why. I don't know if it's because I don't have more money or what the situation is. So it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to show you. But normally I should be able to go in and place. Was I placing at 18? Let's do 19. I don't think that should be able that would change it. 19 at 10x leverage. I'm at 10x leverage there. Yeah, it's weird. That is a weird message that I have not seen in previous times where I was looking to trade, but it's not that big of a deal. For most of you that have watched several of my videos, you kind of understand how to put in the ladders. And Dave P says he needs to get a new alarm clock. Fair enough, Dave. I know how that goes, my friend. I've been awake for a couple of hours because of some other stuff that I do in the mornings. But yeah, man, I understand that the fun of that alarm clock going off. So let's go back to the CoinGecko and look at some coins. In fact, if I would love, has anybody in the chat got a token that they're looking at potentially longing or shorting that they would like me to kind of take a look at and just kind of go through my thought process with, you know, a token of your choice. If you've got a token on your mind that maybe you're considering doing one of these trades with, and you would like me to take a peek at it and pull it up on CoinGecko and look at it, I would love, you know, to do that. But, you know, one that a lot of people are probably wondering about, let's just say, you know, XRP for right now. You know, XRP has had some crazy ups and downs over the last handful of months. You know, obviously, if we just go out here to this 3-month chart, you can see that this thing has been as high as, you know, closing in on $3.50, $3.20 here. And it's been all the way down as low as around, you know, $2. So it's had, you know, it's had some pretty good retracements over the last little bit. Even just in this week, you know, it's been, you know, from 255 down to 223, back and forth and up and down. But whether or not, let's see if we can go to the 1-year chart here. So you can see the one thing about XRP that makes me tiny bit nervous is that it was all the way down here, you know, at 50 cents not that long ago. Throughout most of the last bear market, it was down, you know, at 50 cents. It dipped even down into a little bit lower here. You know, if you go back into, this is only July 24th. So if we go back out to the max chart here, if you go back here, you can see it was 47 cents there. If we go here, it was 37 cents in July of 22. So during the bear market, its all-time low was somewhere around 35 cents, I believe. I think if we can get even like right in here, I mean, like you look, well, this is all the way back in 2020 where it was 18 cents. So that doesn't really count to me. I want to see, you know, like after the peak. So it peaked up in April of 2021 to $1.76, which was a long ways below its previous all-time high of like $3.60. So what I'm trying to say is that Ripple, in my opinion, is going to do big things during this bull market. It's going to be a 15, 10, 15, maybe $20 token. Hard to say where it's gonna go. Some people believe it could do a lot better than that. Some people, you know, don't. Nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody really knows what it's going to do. But I would be very comfortable longing XRP for this cycle, for this bull market. I believe that XRP has a nice little run up coming, but I think that there's safer coins. My point is, this thing, if the market's really, really tanked, this thing could go down back into, you know, the $1 range, 150 range. You know, whether or not it's ever going to be below $1 is pretty hard to say. I would guesstimate that it's probably not going to be underneath $1 anytime in 2025. That would be my guess. But once again, not financial advice. So I'm not seeing anybody asking about a token in the chat. So another one, I'll show you one that's on my radar that I think is a very good possibility for what we are trying to do here. And it would be, where to go here? So, hey, that's my leg, buddy. Oh, I love it when little kitten tries to climb right up your leg. That's fun. What are you doing? Hey, leave him alone. So, internet computer. I talked about this not too long ago. I even did a little short video on it, talking about whether you like ICP or not. I think it's a good token to do some trading with. And part of the reason that I say that is if you look at this thing over the last, what do you mean there's no data to show for the last year? That was the 3-month chart. Let me refresh this. We'll go over the 1-year chart. You can see here back in 2024, this thing was all the way up at 14, 15, 16 bucks. And obviously it's all-time high way back in the day. It's showing here at $700 token. And then its all-time low was just over a year ago at $2.87. So this is a token that I think has a lot of room to move. And if we look at, say, the last 3 months, it's been as low as $5.18, which what is 20% of 6 is $1.20. So it's been about 20% lower, a little bit less than 20% lower than this. And when we were talking about this token a couple of weeks ago, it was closer to this $5 and $0.10, $5.28 range. So had you bought in this trade back on the 11th, which was exactly 2 weeks ago when we were talking about this, you would be up, 10% of 528 is a little over 52 cents. So you would be up over 100% in this token. But to me, this is a token that is still very close to being bottomed out. And this is one that I would highly consider doing a leverage trade on, that I would consider longing, believing that it is going to continue to go up, and it wouldn't be very hard to put in a couple of ladders and really protect it. I will go back to my favorite token still, even right now, after going up to 22 cents, is still Polygon. I mean, this token here, we talked about it. It has not been below 20 cents for a long, long, long time. If you show this only goes out. This goes out only, goes back to October of 2023. But you can see here, like 61 cents right here in October of 23. It went all the way up to $1.22. And remember, folks, in showing you this here, at $1.22, that $65 trade of mine is going to be worth, you out of here, son? Love you, buddy. Talk to you soon, man. Have a good day. $3,177 for this token if it just gets back up to this 122 that it was at in 2024. When Bitcoin was running up and hitting its first all-time high at around 73,000 after the exchange traded funds had come into play. This thing ran all the way up to $1.22. And then you can see in all of the bad times, it came all the way down here to 30 cents. And that was in November. And then it all the way down here to 20 cents just recently. But if this thing was going to go lower than 20 cents, in my opinion, it probably would have done it. And once again, with my ladder system, you buy in at 22.53. Your first ladder would be at around 20 cents. And that ladder would get you down to 18 cents. And then if you did a ladder at 18 cents, that would get you all the way down to a little over 16 cents. And I just don't see Matic going down to those kinds of prices. Now, with anything like this, there's always risk. But folks, even if somehow you manage to put in, $25 at $22.50, you put in $50 at 20, you put in $100 at a little over 18, and this thing dropped all the way down to 16 and you got liquidated, you would still only have a couple $100 invested in these trades. And then you could start over at 16 cents. You could go back and throw even a $50 bill in again at 16, which would take you down into like the 14.5 range. And like, seriously, at some point in time, Matic's going to stop. There's no way, in my opinion, this thing is going to get down to 12, 13, 14 cents. But even if somehow it did, the couple $200-300 that you would lose on its way down would be made up for so quick when you caught the bottom and you got that trade in at 14 cents. Because look at this thing. Look at the way it moves. It was here. It was at 63 cents on October 28th. It was all the way up to 88 cents on November 13th. So October 26th here, October 28th, November 13th. We're talking about literally a couple of weeks here, 3 weeks most. And it went from 60-something all the way up to 80-something. Down here, January of 2022, all the way down at 73 cents. By February of 2021, it was up to 94 cents. You realize that 20% of 70 is only 14, which would be 84. So to go up to 94, it was up over, it was up over 30%, which means you're going to make 30% times 10x leverage is 300. Or you're going to make 30x on your money. It's up for, or no, you're going to make, you would make around, why is my math so bad? So it went up 30% times 10x leverage. It would have gone up 300%. But then it carried on all the way up here to, 122. At 122 from down here at 70, now you're talking about almost an 80% upswing. And 10x leverage would be an 800% gain, or an 8x. And this is when it was up at prices at 60 cents and 70 cents. Right now we have an opportunity. You can see here, 30 cents. It was down here at 29 cents November 4th. And boom, by December 4th, it had ran all the way up to 70 cents. So it had over doubled. It had done over 100x. Times 10 would have been over 1,000x or over a 10x with 10x leverage. So if you had, $100 trade in here at 29 cents on November 4th, that would have been worth well over $1,000 when it, just went up to 70 cents. And so this thing at 21, 22 cents to me is probably the best opportunity that I see for longing something with a significant amount of leverage. When you're hitting 10x leverage, that's getting you up to, a relatively decent point. Another token that I am looking hard at here is Hedera. Now, Hedera is another token that if you look at it, it's had some incredible highs and lows. And if you go all the way back out here into 2022, you can see where this was a 4 or 5 cent token. And then even as recently here as, November of 2024, it was a 4 cent token. So it's got a lot of room to run down. But if you look at the last 3 months, this thing has not wanted to really go down below 20 cents by much. It was down at 18 cents on March 22nd, and it literally bounced back up to 19 something here on March 23rd. So we're talking about a 1 day period of time. You go to March 24th, it was back up, and then, it was back up again here. So this is just over the last 2 or 3 days. So this thing will dip down under 20 cents, but it doesn't stay there for long. You see right here, it dipped down to 18 cents. And then, boom, this was on February 25th. By February 26th, it was back up to 19. And then by February 27th, February 28th, right here, February 27th is back up to 20. So this thing looks to me like it's got some resilience at around 18 cents. So you're talking about if you buy into it at 1976 and you do your first liquidation is going to be down at around 18 cents. So with one ladder, you could get this all the way down to about a 16 cent liquidation. With a 2 or 3 ladders, you can get all the way down to 14, 15 cents on this thing. And you would have a pretty massive little, area that could keep you in the money. Is that for real? Is this the very last comment on the video today? Is that the last comment, or is my screen not updating very well? If you guys are here in the chat, let me know that I'm still live, that you guys can still hear me. Are you kidding me, dog? Will you go lay down? Didn't realize that my dog's tail is waving all over the place in the background. Okay, so yeah, you guys got me a little nervous here. Oh, there we go. Dave just put up some hands. So folks, this is going to be a shorter video because I don't want to complicate it. So step 1 to making your first 10 grand is, in my opinion, is go find 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 tokens that you believe are relatively close to bottomed out, and then go do some trading. You know, do 3x, 5x, 10x leverage. I don't recommend doing 25, 50, 100x leverage. And once again, none of this is financial advice. This is just, you know, what I'm doing. You know, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Like I said, here's my, you know, my Polygon trade that I've had in place for the last 3 days. I've got some income coming in here shortly, and I want to up this trade because I'm comfortable at these prices. You know, even having, you know, I would be relatively comfortable having even like $500 in on this trade, especially back when I was able to get into it at 20 cents, 20.63 at 22.41. It's obviously it can run down 10% fairly easily because it was just at 20 cents not too long ago. Hey, Mr. Pablo, man, thank you for stopping by and saying hello, man. I hope you are doing fantastic too. We are doing great here this morning ourselves. So thank you for stopping by and saying hello. Appreciate you very much. Where do you guys come up with these cool emojis like that hand? I don't think I've ever seen a hand like that. I'm going to have to figure out some of those cool emojis that you guys are using. But you're going to basically, you know, you're going to find 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 tokens that you believe have some significant upside. And then you're just going to come in and place a trade. Once again, like if you wanted to place a trade right now on Polygon, you would place it at this 22.40. And then, you know, I've taught the formula 1,000 times, but I'll go over it again here really fast, really quickly today. I want to show you if we go. What am I? Yep. See, I was telling you guys yesterday that I'm horrible at monetizing videos. And then I'm pretty sure, yep, my wife just reminded me. I'm going to do that real quick. You guys can't see it. I just monetized this video. So the last 42 minutes of it, not monetized. Darn it. My bad. I was running a little bit behind. I've been getting these scheduled out in advance. And this morning I was just able to get it, just basically get it set up not too long before we went live, and I forgot to monetize it. Thanks for reminding me, babe. I wish I would have looked at my phone a little bit sooner, but at least it's done now. Not that big of a deal. But if we go here at 22.40, so 20.224 times 10% is 2.224 or 0.0224 cents minus 0.224 takes you right down to just over 20 cents. So what I would recommend that you do if you're going to do a trade like this and you want to back it up and make sure that it doesn't get liquidated if Polygon has a little bit of a downswing, is I would go in and put this trade in at 22.40-ish, and then I would put in another trade at about 2025. So 0.0225 would be about what I would do, or excuse me, 0.2025. I would put in another trade, and then from 0.2025 times 10% gives you another 2 cents. So subtract 0.2025. That takes you all the way down to a little over 18.25 cents. So you can literally get in here, do a trade on Polygon at 22.40-ish, and then do another trade at around 20.025 cents. And that would get you all the way down to 18.2 cents. And if you go back and look at Polygon, you got to go, it hasn't been down lower than that for quite a bit. So there's a relatively decent chance you would be able to keep that trade in play. And then once again, you know, before we end here, I just want to show you on this $65 trade, in order for me to make $10,000, what does this thing got to do? It's got to get up to 3.6 So 3.5, a little bit lower, 3.3, 3.4. $3.4. Now, I know you're saying, hey, it's at 20 cents right now. What makes you think it's going to get up to $3.4? Well, during the last bull market, it ran all the way up to $3. And I believe that towards the peak of this bull market, it could be even higher than its previous all-time high. The other thing is this is a $65 trade, folks. If you had $300 in on this trade, what's 65 times 5? 65 times 5 would be 330. So if I had $330 in on this trade, that would be a $50,000 bill on 330. So literally, if I had a $330 trade, it wouldn't have to go up anywhere near as high as $3.4 in order to make. So let's go back out. If we go, let's say that this was a $1 token. $1 token is worth $2,487, but that's on 65. So what 10,000 divided by what is 2,400, roughly 4, right? 2,500 goes into 10 grand 4 times. So if this trade would have, instead of being a $65 trade, this would have been 4 times 65 would have been $260 trade. With a $260 trade, I'd be at a $10,000 profit at a $1 token. And, once again, we just pulled this up and showed you where $1 is absolutely nothing for this token. It's been up over $1 for all sorts of, time in its life here. You can see here, this was, $1.33. This was $1.09. Right here, it even just popped up in December all the way up to over 70 cents. So for this thing to run back up to $1 is not a big feat by any means. The other thing is, when we're talking about making your first 10,000, is we're also talking about you having, 2 or 3 or 4 of these plays in action. And so with that, folks, I think you can see that it's easier than you might think to go from a relatively small amount of money and to get up into some pretty big numbers. I mean, just seeing this for myself, where if this thing was a $3.50 token, and I can get another, call it, what do we just say, 65 times 5 is 325, 325. If I could get $350 into this trade, that this would have the potential to turn into a $50,000 bill at $3.50. And, even if we go down once again to, like I say, $350, we just showed where if you had 260, you'd be at 10 grand at $1. So now you're talking about being at 20 grand at $2, and so on and so forth. So for a $200, $300 bill, you could turn that into your first 10,000 fairly quickly. And the other thing that is exciting is we don't know when the market's really totally going to flip and these things are going to go crazy. But I would be willing to guesstimate that this 22-cent token, when the market really flips, this thing will go from 25 cents, 30 cents, all the way up to $1 in the matter of just a couple, 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month tops. It's not going to take very long. All of a sudden, you're just going to wake up and it'll just jumped from 22 cents to like 30 cents. And then the next day it's sitting at 35 or 40 cents. And all of a sudden it's sitting at 50 or 60 cents. And you're so far away from this 18-cent liquidation price that you're not ever even really worried about whether or not it gets liquidated. At that point, it's just a matter of how patient can you be, how high will it run up, and how much money will you make. So before we go, folks, I do want to show you something else that is pretty cool. We have a live stream today at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The Wonder pre-sale opportunity. This is actually a token that we're going to be talking with the founders. They're going to be going over all of the utility of this token, why this project exists. This is not some crummy meme coin project. This is a real project with real utility that we got an opportunity to, we're going to get an opportunity to meet the co-founders and do a $100 giveaway. This isn't working yet, but it should be here soon. But we're going to show you this. You're actually going to be able to hopefully go, if you like what you see, you're going to be able to go to this webpage and actually buy some Wonder in the private sale round before this launches to the public. So today at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, show up, you know, give your infinite crypto spirit. We're going to give away $100. And you're also going to learn about what I believe could be a very incredible opportunity. They're going to announce when it's actually going to launch, and we're just going to go into their website and their utility, all the different things about this project. If you want to get a head start, you can go in here and check it out. We've got the website here. We've got their Twitter account. We've got their Telegram account. I highly recommend go do some of your own due diligence so that as we're going through this project today, if you get excited about it and want to buy some tokens, you will have the ability to do so. So with that, folks, it's almost 11. So what do we got? 12, 1 o'clock. We got about 2 hours, a little over 2 hours before this Wonder pre-sale opportunity, this live stream is going to hit. Hope to see all of you there. Share this out with your friends and family. Invite them to come check it out. It could be an opportunity. I don't know what the minimum is. That's what we're going to talk about, all of that, the minimum, the maximum. But this might be a situation where you could help friends or family or people get in $25, $50, $100 into a private sale like this that has the potential to do, you know, some maybe amazing numbers when it launches. I'll let that be for you to decide when we do the interview. So with that, folks, I look forward to seeing you at 1 o'clock. I look forward to seeing you at 9 a.m. again tomorrow for the Microcap Gem live stream. And, you know, with that, man, I love you all very much. Thank you for being here. Have an incredible rest of your Tuesday. Bye-bye for now.